we're told a shark can sense a drop of blood in the water a mile away. I'm filming these sharks when this eel bit my hand, and I'm bleeding literally just feet from hundreds of hammerhead sharks. And not one shark showed any signs of aggression. How am I still here? Why wasn't I attacked? And why are all these sharks swimming in place? All of this and more on this episode of Oceans Unknown. The Galapagos Islands are known for their schooling hammerhead sharks. Wolf and Darwin Islands are two of the best places in the world if you want to jump on the water and see the schooling hammerheads. We headed out to Wolf Island to dive on a site named Elephant Rock.
Hold on, what are we doing today?
Shark diving.
Shark diving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rise and shine. We got a breakfast date with some hammerhead sharks.
We set up our gear, analyzed our nitrox, suited up, and we headed out to Elephant Rock to swim with some sharks. This is Elephant Rock on the left, and this is Wolf Island on the right. The currents would pinch between these two land masses and create some really strong currents that the hammerhead sharks love. We were hoping to see some sharks in this area right here. The current was pretty strong this day, so our plan was to drop in the water ahead of the points where we're hoping to see the sharks. After dropping in the water, we can then drift with the water to the point where the stronger current is. As the current got stronger, we knew we were getting closer to Elephant Rock. Once we got closer to the spot, we noticed the sharks were here. Because of the strong currents in the Galapagos, you're instructed by the dive masters to let out all of your air, become negatively buoyant, and find a rock to hold onto or brace yourself up against so you don't get sucked up by the current and sent out all on your own. This is how you dive into Galapagos. Everywhere else, yes, don't touch the reef. But here, you either grab onto a rock or you'll be sent off miles away on your own, possibly into a school of hammerhead sharks. I mean, you can tell how crazy the current is just by our bubbles. On a normal dive, bubbles just go up in a calm, poetic manner like this one. But here in the Galapagos, the current just blends up the bubbles and sends them out sideways. It's pretty insane. Not only were there sharks here, but directly above us were hundreds of bottlenose dolphins. You can barely see the dolphins near the surface, and we're between 80 and 85 feet deep on this dive. That's about 26 meters, and the visibility is around 50 feet, so it's hard to see the dolphins. Yeah, so I mean, it was intense. We were whipping around. I was bracing myself up against this rock when I felt something bite my hand. It felt like a bunch of needles just all got jammed in my hand at once. And I looked around to see what had bit my hand, and I saw this eel. It could have been a lot worse. It was just a warning bite. Eels can really rip into your hands. They have a lot of teeth, and they will bite to protect their territory. Luckily, I was wearing 5mm gloves. The eel bit right through the gloves and into my hands. My knuckles got it the worst. That's where I was really bleeding. I mean, you could see how the eel just really ripped into these gloves. It was going to take a lot more than my hand getting bit for me to go back up the surface and not film this. I mean, all I could think about was just trying to find the right frame and shoot this so I could share it with you and the rest of the world. This was one of the coolest things I've ever seen underwater. Seeing these sharks swim like this in place was incredible. There were so many sharks, you couldn't even count them. Just one shark can sense one drop of blood in the water a mile away, and not one single shark showed any signs of aggression. How am I still here? Why wasn't I attacked? Any of these sharks could have easily taken me out if they really wanted to. There's always been this big misconception that sharks are just waiting to eat us. I used to think the same thing. After diving with sharks, I realized they're just not after us like I used to think. I mean, they are sharks and they can hurt you. Always respect the shark, never provoke a shark, and always keep your distance. If you want to be in the water with a shark, make sure you go with a guide. Hammerheads like to hunt for squid at night in deeper water. They're not out to eat humans. According to the International Shark Attack File, there have only been 17 unprovoked hammerhead shark attacks on humans since the year 1580, and none of those attacks were fatal. So why are all these sharks swimming in place? What we do know is hammerheads like the current. Even in this dive spot, if there's no current, there's no sharks. Hammerheads have to keep swimming with their mouths open to move water over their gills so that they can breathe. Some sharks, like these white-tip reef sharks I shot at Roca Partida, rest on the bottom during the day and hunt at night. They don't need to keep swimming like the hammerhead sharks do because they can pump water through their gills without swimming. Hammerhead sharks are also negatively buoyant, and they'll sink if they stop swimming. Some experts have proven that the shape of the head actually helps create lift, similar to a wing on an aircraft. Let's go back to the shark with a scar. The current moves over the head and creates this low pressure on top and high pressure on the bottom, very similar on how air moves over a wing on an airplane. The high pressure creates lift, and this helps keep the hammerhead buoyant. The hammerhead also has a very large and powerful top portion of the tail, known as the upper lobe. The angle of the upper lobe produces a downward pitching movement on the shark. The energy from this movement helps create more high pressure under its wing-shaped head, which in return produces even more lift for the shark. So the shape of the tail and the head work together to help keep the shark from sinking. Watch how the hammerheads will slightly move their head just up and down and take advantage of this current. We also know that the hammerheads move to deeper water at night to hunt for squid. If the food source is nearby and they could use this current right here to breathe and keep buoyant, then it makes sense for the sharks to stay here and swim in place. So the sharks are basically killing time during the day before the big hunt at night. I did not want this dive to end. I just wanted to stay down here and keep filming, but we were pushing our time on our tanks and we needed to return back to the surface. The dive master is hitting the back of his tank. You can hear it right here. That means it's time for us to go. Diving in the Galapagos is an incredible experience. There really is no other place like it on our planet. I hope that someday you'll have the chance to experience Galapagos.